So what do you feel first of all about Stuart Robertson saying at least fans are back 700 or 800 this season?
Well, yes. People might see that as a small positive, but if I'm a Celtic fan who lives in Glasgow and I go with my family every week to the away games, and there's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 at every other stadium, then you want to go with a large number. And if I was a Celtic fan and I could only go amongst 500 away, I wouldn't go. I would feel for the other 3,500, 4,000 who miss out. It's a very small number to start off with, but I think Stephen makes a great point. I think Rangers have benefited from it because Celtic were on the march at that particular time when they pulled the plug on the away fans, and then Celtic decided then to do exactly the same. But it's positive, I suppose. He wants to get some away fans in, but if it's 400, 500, 600, 700, does that make a difference when you've got 55,000 other home fans at Ibrox and you've got 62,000 at Celtic, and Rangers have got 500 fans in the corner? So for me, either get them all in, but as I said, he's changed it, he's brought some fans back, but again, there's nothing better than even playing at Celtic Park and there's 5,000 or 6,000. The away fans on both, they bring so much colour, the banter, the singing, everything else. And that's my viewpoint, and I totally agree there with Craig's.
I suppose Rangers are thinking also of building their own fan base and trying to maintain season tickets. I'd imagine that's part of it, because suddenly you're selling a season ticket with 2 games less, and you're thinking, well, I want to buy a season ticket, for example, as the supporters I'm talking about, not me because I don't have one, but supporters, trying to sell it to them, trying to get them to buy into their in the Rangers Football Club, that you can actually see 2 Old Firm games.
Yeah.
It's a much more attractive ticket.
Sure.
They pay a bit more money for it, so the income stream of that throughout the season is more than having 14,000 Celtic fans over 2 games. I'm just trying to work the business side of things as well, Paul.
I think the league need to grow and do something about it, and they should tell the clubs you have to have a minimum percentage of opposition fans there, because we say it's the greatest derby in the world, and you've played in them, John, many times. It's very special, but it won't be the same if it's always just primarily green and white or blue and white. It just won't be the same. And Celtic, I think, could say the same thing. They can sell it out, but be the bigger. Both clubs need to grow up and allow opposition fans in. You don't want
but this is not Celtic, Paul.
Well, no, they did it as well. Rangers, no, they did, John.
No, but they only reacted to what Rangers did.
But they didn't have to do it. They could have been.
But they're not going to do that, are they?
Why not?
They won't do that.
But they could have done it.
No, but they would never do that. If Rangers are going to be that sort of shallow and stop away fans, why wouldn't Celtic follow suit?
Well, if that's the case, you're being shallow as well by doing it. You say, OK, we're not doing it.
I totally disagree with you. The Rangers started off by banning the Celtic away fans or restricting them to 0. And then Celtic reacted and thought, well, if you're going to do that, then we'll do exactly the same. And I think that's probably the proper thing to do.
It's interesting. See if you look at some derbies around the world, the Buenos Aires, River Plate, and Boca Juniors.
Yeah.
There's no away fans in those games.
Yeah, that's on another level, though, isn't it?
So I'm guessing Rangers could cite health, the safety of fans and whatever's going on. But I would hope somewhere in the near future that a little bit of sense can prevail and the derby, for what everybody knows it for, the Old Firm derby, can be brought back to life.
John, if your club had held the line, because Celtic, I think, had the game before, so Rangers said we're not going to do it this season. I think the first game was at Celtic Park, and Celtic then followed suit, as you mentioned. If you'd held the line and allowed and welcomed Rangers fans in, I'll bet you by now then Rangers would have capitulated and would allow Celtic fans in. They would have.
Why don't they do it now then? Why aren't they letting 5,000 fans in next season?
They're not saying they are yet.
Why?
Well, let's hope they do. Discussions like this might make both clubs to say, let's do it.
But if they were going to do that, they'd have done it by now. Why did they have to wait for Celtic to do it and respond by allowing
they haven't
the
had
Rangers
a game
fans
yet, have
in?
they? They haven't had a game because last year they were all behind closed doors.
Sure, yeah.
And this year there was no fans allowed in because both clubs agreed. Stuart Robertson said both clubs agreed because of COVID regulations and red zones that they wouldn't allow any away fans. So this 500 was in place for this season. So hopefully come the summertime, if there's it'll be interesting to see who wins the league. Because I'd imagine the team that wins the league will go and say, do you want to change it? And the team that doesn't say, no, we're not changing anything. So it's amazing how the dynamics should go by whoever wins the title.
John, you'll have loads of Celtic fans saying, I'm with you, John. In fact, most of them will be, but I think some of them said at the time, no, Celtic should just keep it the way it is.
Oh, did they?
'Cause it's amazing. They did. You know,
I
listen, we're in a democracy.
I didn't hear much of that, because at the end of the day, I feel that Rangers pulled the plug on the Celtic fans, and then Celtic reacted. And if Rangers hadn't have done that, then they'd have continued with both sets of fans in either ground.
Tell Alexa to launch Go Radio or listen on the Go Radio app.